Hi, good afternoon, everyone. To those that have joined us already, we'll be starting in about 15 seconds, so just bear with us. Okay, a few people are still filtering in, but just to be respectful of people's time, we will begin, go through the introductions, and then we will start the presentation proper. So, Kelly, over to you.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Well, welcome today to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. So we are thrilled to have engaged audience with you virtually. So today's sessions is focused on key step to build cyber resilience. So we have an exciting lineup of speakers who will be sharing with us. Before we begin, just as a quick reminder to keep your microphone mute during the presentation. Feel free to use the chat to share your questions and thoughts throughout the session. So let me introduce you the speaker today, Andre Shuri, APEC Cybersecurity Vice President and CISO, and Somna, Senior Cybersecurity Officer for Greater India. Over to you.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a thrill to be here. It's a thrill to have you as well in this webinar. So as Kelly mentioned, my name is Andre Shori. I'm the Asia Pacific Cybersecurity VP and Chief Information Security Officer for Schneider Electric. Today, I have the privilege of also having my colleague and good friend Somnath Kundu with me as well. Somnath based in India. Somnath, over to you for your introduction.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It is really a great pleasure, and I am feeling delighted to co-host this webinar along with Andre. As has already been introduced by Kelly, I am the Senior Cybersecurity Officer for the Greater India region and CISO of one of our entity, Lawrence Knudsen.
All right, fantastic. Can I just double check that we are sharing the slide deck? All right, fantastic. Yeah, I wasn't sure it was just me or if if it wasn't up yet. Okay, fantastic. We can go to the next slide. And thanks very much, Kelly. So this session, the reason why we're here today is really because I think we for Somnath and myself, we were inspired by a pretty powerful observation, and one that I feel reflects both the momentum and the complexity of India's digital transformation. Now, India's digital transformation, which has been amazing so far, in my opinion, I also feel that it's been driven by visionary programs like Digital India and Make in India, and is definitely rapidly helping reshape the economy in India. It's positioning your country as a global digital powerhouse, making you a leader in innovation, infrastructure, and opportunity. But with this transformation comes a growing challenge. I'm not sure if you're aware of this statistic or not, but India is actually the second most targeted country globally for cyber attacks. And if you've been following the news in India, as I have, recent breaches and incidents there have comprised hundreds of millions of records and have disrupted essential services. And all this has underscored the urgent need to strengthen India's digital defenses. And in this context, cybersecurity is no longer just about protecting the data. I feel that it's become a strategic necessity, a foundation of trust, innovation, and sustainable growth. And to meet this challenge, India is actively updating its national cybersecurity strategy in 2025. And I really like that this strategy focuses on two core areas. The first being, of course, critical information infrastructure protection so essential services protection and cybersecurity around essential services, but also represents a shift from reactive security to more proactive cyber resilience. And that's going to be the focus of today's session. So we're going to explore the concept of cyber resilience and how it materializes in a cybersecurity strategy. We're going to attempt to share key moments from our own journey at Schneider Electric to help you potentially identify and maybe prioritize the most critical areas for your own cybersecurity roadmap. So I like to start, and I think this is super important and is a core feature of your cyber defense as well, is to start with a critical aspect of cybersecurity, and that's of course going to be risk management. But more specifically, how we should translate cyber risk into business risk. Cybersecurity is no longer just a technical issue, right? It's been a business imperative for quite some time now because it directly affects the continuity of operations, our market reputation, and maybe most importantly, our customers' trust, the trust that our customers have in us. And in other words, it's a strategic concern that must be addressed at the highest levels of any organization. And why is that? Well, because cyber incidents always have business consequences. There's no separating the two anymore. Every cyber incident has business consequence. The financial impact from a cybersecurity incident can be significant. It ranges from regulatory fines, legal costs, all the way to operational downtime and direct revenue, loss of revenue. But beyond just the numbers, there's also the reputational costs. Cybersecurity is top of mind for just about everybody these days. And it's definitely a headline-grabbing, attention-seeking incident. Whenever there's this cybersecurity incident, it's all over the news, and there's personal impact to our customers and to the average citizen on the street as well. Cybersecurity breaches today, they erode stakeholder confidence. They damage your brand credibility, and they can lead to a long-term loss of customer loyalty and loss of business. So at Schneider Electric, one of the things we've done to help kind of remediate this and offset this is we've developed a cyber risk register to help us bridge the gap between technical risk and business impact. So this tool, it helps translate cybersecurity risks into business and operational scenarios with clearly defined accountability at the senior leadership levels. And while our organization continues to evolve, just like any organization, just like any growing organization, so we continue to evolve across departments, business units, and global functions, our approach to cybersecurity remains consistent. So looking at the cyber risk register, we focus on 4 transversal and timeless risk categories. The number one cyber risk category that we have at Schneider Electric is damage to customer assets. This is one of our most critical concerns. And I'll just focus in on this one for a second because it's important for you to understand that at Schneider, due to the nature of our customers' operations, we help service essential services and critical infrastructure globally around the world in every country, including India. We've long understood now that our customers trust us to help protect the integrity and security of their operations. And therefore, any compromise at the customer side directly affects their business and ours, and their risk, their threat landscape is also ours. Following number one risk, which is damage to customer assets that I just covered, the second one for us is business disruption, our ability to conduct our business, our ability to produce the products and services for you. The third is compliance, legal risks, national security and national regulatory risk, legal risk. And the fourth is intellectual property theft, our IP. So that's actually in order. So by anchoring our risk management strategies in these categories, we help ensure that cybersecurity is aligned with what matters most to the business. And the Cyber Risk Register, by being a business risk-driven tool, has become an integral part of our conversations with business leaders. It certainly makes conversations with the business much easier. It certainly helps foster a shared understanding of risk, which enables better decision making and, in turn, a more resilient organization.
Now, to continue with what Andre was saying, one thing is pretty clear. You need your board to be on board. Now, business executives are expected to actively support all the cybersecurity initiatives. And this isn't only about your IT or OT, but it's also about your cybersecurity due diligence. That means treating digital risk as a core business value. It's about understanding the strategic importance of cybersecurity, embedding it into your corporate governance, and then making informed decisions about your risk management, compliances, and resilience. It also means setting up the tone from the top. Now, leaders must champion a culture of cybersecurity awareness and preparedness. That obviously includes promoting good cyber hygiene practices across the team and also making sure that security is a part of everyday decision making. But it's us who needs to make this happen. Andre and we meet our zone president every quarter. In these meetings, we present the cybersecurity KPIs and also demonstrate how our cyber team are enabling the business objectives. These conversations are essentially for aligning the priorities and showing the tangible values of cybersecurity. At the global level, our global CISO meets the board annually to share insights on evolving threat landscapes, customer and regulatory requirements, and how our security, privacy, risk, and trust strategies align with the company's broader direction. But cybersecurity isn't just a leadership issue. It's everyone's job, for sure. Ownership must exist at all levels of the organization. So everybody start their day with cybersecurity in mind. One example we are particularly proud of in our work is on the industrial cybersecurity. We definitely make it a point to stay closely connected with our cybersecurity site leaders in all our Greater India plants. Now, these CSLs have a very formalized role as cyber owners of all these facilities and plants. They monitor the cyber performance, they drive the remediation efforts, lead awareness campaigns, and also ensure that the maintenance activities are cyber compliant. This way, we ensure that our shop floors contribute to the overall cyber resilience.
So let's now explore how we've evolved from a traditional IT-centric view of cybersecurity to a truly unified cybersecurity organization. And that journey has been challenging, but we're living proof that it's entirely possible. So cybersecurity today has to be comprehensive. If it isn't, you remain exposed. So at Schneider, for example, we recognize that securing our products is just as critical as securing our infrastructure. And that's why product security is a core component of our cybersecurity strategy. So in a world where the number of connected devices, especially IoT, is just exploding, right? Leaps and bounds. Millions of devices coming online almost every day. And many of them have almost zero security built in, almost nothing native. I mean, both hardware limitations as well as poor design, as well as poor adherence to a secure development lifecycle. So we've got to look at all of the new entry, take into account all the potential new entry points. And in 2023, a couple of years back, we took a major step forward by moving from two separate organizations. Originally, we had product security on one side of the house, and we had cybersecurity on the other side of the house. One was focused on product, the security of products, the native inbuilt security that comes baked in on everything that ships or everything that's downloaded, and then on cybersecurity, which is the cybersecurity of the organization itself. Instead, we took a step back and when we decided to integrate both of those into a single cybersecurity organization. And this shift was really driven by the need to embed cybersecurity throughout the entire product lifecycle, right? And it certainly helped us to stay ahead of the growing number of, say, for example, regulations targeting products with embedded digital features. But the benefits, which I want to stress, the benefits of this unified approach, for us anyway, have been really clear. By tackling cyber and product security as a single topic, we've gained a holistic view, a holistic understanding of our products, especially those IT ones that I mentioned earlier, and how they're being used. It's helped to lead us to better solutions for our product teams. It's resulted in less gaps. It's absolutely helped break down a lot of silos between organizations. It's broadened our reach, and it's given us more consistent application of some of the best practices that we have today. And to reinforce this integration, our global CISO, my boss, reports to the Chief Governance Officer, not the CIO. So again, moving away from that traditional IT-centric approach, which has been really helpful. This structure of not reporting to IT helps us, it certainly helped us to ensure that cybersecurity remains aligned with our enterprise risk management, not just IT operations. We're not just looking at how to protect the uptime of the organization, but we're really looking at the security, the health and safety, and all the other aspects of cybersecurity for Schneider Electric. It's also helped us to coordinate better at the supply chain level, which is critical to us. Because, and again, as I mentioned, think about where Schneider Electric products are deployed in customer environments, in power plants, in energy distribution, in industrial automation, in hospitals, in building management services, in data centers, which help support the cloud, and cloud and internet is rapidly becoming an essential service. So think about where all Schneider products are being deployed. We've absolutely had to look at supply chain cybersecurity as well. As I mentioned before, our customers' risks, that entire massive threat landscape and complex threat landscape, is our risk. That's what we've adopted as our risk. That's what we protect against. And by having this integration, by building a cybersecurity organization that considers both our internal environment and our customers' environments as part of that conversation, we've certainly strengthened our cyber resilience and matured our cybersecurity program. And speaking about cyber resilience, on that path to cyber resilience, there's a fundamental expectation that's been placed on today's CISOs, and cybersecurity officers in general out there in the industry, in the world. We're expected to stay one step ahead of malicious actors, right? That's a basic fundamental thing that cybersecurity practitioners need to do. But what does be proactive really mean? What does it mean in this context? Well, I feel that it starts with identifying potential weaknesses. You need to understand, know thyself. Many organizations still rely, for example, on legacy infrastructure, aging systems that are extremely hard or impossible to secure, and these systems are, for one reason or another, no longer isolated. Right? We've not been able to air gap these anymore. So, thinking about legacy infrastructure across regions, infrastructure maturity can vary widely. Right? I see a lot of different levels of maturity in our customers, different levels of maturity in other countries as well, different levels of maturity in different segments and practice areas. Some countries, for example, have advanced their OT cybersecurity modernization or OT modernization in general. Well, others, lag behind considerably, or haven't even started that journey yet. But OT itself continues to expand, right? Driven by IoT integration in sectors like building management systems, driven by economic factors, driven by differentiation and retail advantages, marketing advantages. So all of this has broadened the attack surface, which has made OT cybersecurity a universal challenge for all CISOs, even traditional IT CISOs, and where it's not an engineering problem or challenge anymore. It is now a security challenge. It is also, of course, still a health and safety challenge. So to move towards proactivity, to make me more resilient and help tackle these challenges, you have to do fundamental things, right? Asset identification, of course. Asset management is essential. Visibility has to become an obsession for you. You need that 360-degree view of all your endpoints, of all your different hardware and software assets in your environment across IT, across OT, across ICS, in order to understand what you need to protect. You also need more robust vulnerability management. I mean, that's the next step, of course, making sure that you're doing a patching firmware, all the fundamentals there as well, but also being able to continuously detect and mitigate those risks that are associated with new vulnerabilities. Threat actors are always finding new gaps and means in exploits that they can take advantage of. So we need to act immediately, as soon as possible, to either remediate directly by removing the vulnerability or by applying compensatory controls, right, in our environments. I wanted to also mention on the topic of vulnerability management that Schneider Electric, we have an online cybersecurity portal, which allows us to send out alerts to update people whenever there's a vulnerability that's been detected. It also allows you, by the way, to report any vulnerabilities that you find out there for Schneider products. But it's really important that you actually sign up for it. It's not an automatic thing. You need to go out there and sign up. So I invite you to visit se.com, go to a vulnerability management platform and sign up there. I'll also mention that we also need a mindset shift. I mentioned earlier, secure development lifecycle, secure by design has certainly become a standard for Schneider Electric. It's not an optional thing. It hasn't been an optional thing for a very long time. We embed this in our research and development. It starts very early on from just concept level, and is nascent. Whenever there's a new nascent idea, something brand new that we're thinking about doing, we start to have those security conversations early on in the process. And then we develop the products, and we have processes to embed cybersecurity in our products and services, whether it's hardware or software. We really do make cybersecurity the DNA of our organization, and also especially our development, right? As I mentioned, the process. That's very, very important. It's a win-win when you have this in place, because if you look at it from a cyber resilience standpoint or from a return on investment perspective, you have wins in both areas. The earlier you invest in security, the earlier you make secure by design, secure implementation, and secure operations part of your DNA of your organization, the more cost effective it is actually in the long term. The investment has certainly paid off for us in massive ways in terms of reduction of downtime, loss of revenue, and all the impacts that I mentioned earlier. But it's also helped us to make us a more efficient and robust organization as well. So something for you to also to consider.
Okay, so people, a very important component in this discussion. Now, actually, when we were in discussion on cyber resiliency and the priorities with respect to the cybersecurity roadmap, one thing is pretty clear, that cybersecurity actually needs to be embedded at the core of the strategy, and it cannot be treated as an afterthought. So, it plays a dual role across the organization. It's like a shield where in the short term, the cyber team would ensure business continuity and long-term sustainability by protecting against the different types of threats. And it will also act as a spear, like cyber teams will become the business enablers. They are the ones who will help demonstrate that the organization is really, really serious about cybersecurity, and that will increase and enhance the trust in the market. A strong cybersecurity posture will actually enhance the organization's reputation and credibility, and it will be directly visible in the business developments that are happening. However, said so, cybersecurity cannot be the only responsibility of the dedicated cyber teams. Now, it requires to have a shared commitment across all the components of the organization. Every employee will have their own role to play because they are the first line of defense in this case. Now, this is very interesting. By this, what will happen? The people sensors will actually start accelerating incident detections. While the people, uh, people are always seen as the weakest link in the chain, but now the people can really become the strongest asset of the organization. With the right initiative, cyber-aware employees can make a real difference and actually become the game changers. Cybersecurity is always a journey and not a destination, so it will require a continuous vigilance. Now, you can achieve it by fostering a culture where cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, and we kind of create a cyber citizen. Now, whether we are talking about a cyber team or a cyber citizen, the need actually is continuous training and upskilling. The threat landscape is very dynamic, and definitely the people should evolve with this. And one very important aspect is that resilience of tomorrow absolutely has to be built today. And let's say if we don't address this ever growing cyber skill gap, our defenses will weaken over time.
So to conclude today's presentation, I want you to have focus in on some of the key takeaways and some of the points that we stressed today. When you talk about resiliency, a cyber resilient organization, number one, understands its risks, know thyself. Number two, it puts emphasis on ownership of that risk for all stakeholders. Number three, it tackles cybersecurity everywhere, whether it's R&D, whether it's production, whether it's field service, customer implementation, projects, everywhere, right? Across the entire value chain, across the entire supply chain, need to have mature cyber risk aware conversations and address and embed cybersecurity in every dimension of your operations. You have to, number four, act proactively as well to protect your environment. An ounce of protection is worth, a kilogram of cure, as the saying goes. And finally, as Somnath beautifully, I think, highlighted, make your colleagues and all the stakeholders that you work with the first line of cyber defense for your organization. So, just as we wrap up today's session, I think let's also I want to focus on another fundamental principle, which is very related to all of this, but especially the last point I just made, which is trust. Without trust, there is no cybersecurity. Trust is such an essential core component of cybersecurity. It's not just the value. At Schneider, for example, it's a core driver of our cybersecurity posture. In this world of ever-evolving growing threats, evolving regulations, rising, the rising customer expectations, for us, trust is what anchors a big chunk of our approach to cybersecurity and to go-to-market as well. It's definitely helped enable collaboration and partnership with a variety of different stakeholders, whether it's customers, whether it's suppliers, whether it's national authorities, regulators. Having that trust certainly helps enable a lot of the conversations and helps build that relationship between all different stakeholders. A lot of times we all face the same threats and risks. Nation state attacks, for example, everyone faces that. At least everyone that we deal with faces that. National authorities and critical infrastructure operators So a lot of times it also we can also talk about collective defense. Our responses and how we defend against these unified threats. Also, there's a lot of advantages in having a communal and collective defense as well. Which is why, for example, we're having this webinar today, which is to help foster that community and to help foster the awareness across all the stakeholders. So at Schneider, we're committed. We're really, really committed to protecting and supporting our customers throughout the digital journey. Again, I'll repeat, this commitment is backed by dedicated teams as well, including the cybersecurity governance organization that I belong to, that we represent here today. I'll also mention that we have a cybersecurity business consultancy as well. Reason I mention this is because there's been a lot of talk about what are the other cybersecurity capabilities that Schneider offers. So that's another thing to mention. For example, we have a managed security services portfolio and offer that we do for operational technology, which a lot of people don't know about, but I'm thought to highlight that as well as an example that we're not just internally focused, but we also have external engagement for cybersecurity consulting. I really hope that just looking at the time, I really hope that the insights that we shared today have been invaluable. I hope that it was something that was useful to you. Again, this is a very high level summary, just a glimpse into our broader cybersecurity approach. But we really did try to highlight some of the key elements that we believe, that Somnath and I believe, can support your resiliency journey, your cyber resiliency journey today. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you'd like to continue the conversation. If you have, more questions, we're always open to sharing, to learning, to collaborating. As I said, cyber defense really needs a communal approach. I think we need to be better at talking to one another and sharing knowledge and tips and tricks on how to make things better, how to be more effective and succeed at what we're all trying to do. I think we have some time for some questions. Kelly, is there been anything interesting from the audience today in the chat?
Okay, let's see some of the questions that we have in the chat itself. In the meantime, if anyone are keen, they can actually unmute and then post the question as well.
Yeah, I think Ellie and Andre, there is one query, a pretty interesting one, is that Kuldeep actually wants to point out, I think from NTPC, that he is telling that there is a need, approach needs to be shifted from reactive to proactive. And in this context, what is Schneider's recommendation as a subject matter expert for asset owners to have a centralized SOC for OT in line with the IT domain, especially in cases where the assets are geographically distributed, to continue to manage security in silos? He is also talking about dearth of expertise in all these geographical locations. So what would be the best practice in this regard?
Okay, no, fantastic question. And let me take a first crack at it, Somnath, if you don't mind. Absolutely agree that we should not manage security in silos. Silos are just a bad idea. As I've been saying through this whole presentation, we need to have better collaboration, integration, and communicate and talk to each other. We need to build trust and foster trust and have that community. So security, you can't. If you consider that how effectively the attackers talk to each other and have their community well established, and all the financial models and the federated models that they have for attacking us, we cannot defend against an entire horde of attackers that are an army of attackers that are working cohesively as a unit if we're a single point of defense. So we do need to talk to each other, even within the same organization. And I think that for OT versus IT security operations centers, it depends. You can keep them separate or you can put them together. It really depends on a variety of circumstances. And there are pros and cons. There are advantages and disadvantages of both models. For example, if you have a unified fusion center where you have OT and IT together in the same room, it makes it a lot easier for communications between both teams, collaboration, sharing of information, logs, etc. You have a unified dashboard potentially. Those are the advantages that you will realize in having everybody in the same room. However, there is a risk of prioritization because IT is all about confidentiality, number one, integrity, and then availability is a distant third. However, for OT, availability is the number one. You can kind of flip it on its head. Availability is the number one prioritization and consideration. So unless you have very well-defined processes and you have taken into account the different mindset, the different expertise, the different viewpoints that each team is going to have, IT versus OT. And I think that as an industry, we're not yet seeing the maturity of cybersecurity in general. I don't know if we ever will, where you have practitioners that have extensive experience in both. I think it's always going to be a struggle because, again, of that mindset difference between the two practice areas. Then you have to, if you have them both in the same room, you have to take that into account. Of course, if you have them in separate rooms, then the playbook and the process and the communication between both teams has to be a key focus area in order to ensure smooth alerts, smooth collaboration, and the unified understanding of exactly what's happening in the middle of the situation, what all the different alerts mean. I think that really becomes a key focus area, and that's also an equal challenge as well. So again, it really depends on your setup. It depends on what works best for you. I don't think geography makes that much of a difference because we're dealing with electronic logs and communication anyways. So follow the sun and other things may be a consideration for geography, but we've long since had solutions on how to deal with that, whether you have global SOCs or distributed SOCs. It really, again, it's very circumstantial. It depends on the organization what works best for you, but there isn't like a one-size-fits-all solution. What do you think, Samna?
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I think that was a great answer. And just to add on, I think obviously in the present context of India, visibility should be an obsession. Definitely, be it in centralized SOC or be it like SOCs operating in silos, not silos, but like IT SOC and OT SOCs being separate. But the visibility should be an ultimate option. Also, with that, I would like to mention the customized threat intelligence because, in some instances of automation, for example, like Modbus might be a true protocol, Fieldbus might be a true protocol, whereas in some other instances, they might be cause of alerts. So definitely, I think, as Andre mentioned, that you need to have very customized threat intelligence so that it doesn't be kind of over kind of alerts and logs, because there can be a sense of too much logs and you miss some important logs on it. So definitely customized alert for OT.
Yep. And also add to that, that's a great point. I'll also expand on that point that it's absolutely essential that you have a portion of your analysts who are familiar with your OT operations. They need to understand the environment, right? If they don't know your setup, your operations, and your environment, or at least maybe not your specific environment, but at least how OT environments work, right? Because you can't take an IT SOC, give them OT logs tomorrow, and expect them to be able to do anything with that. Even if they understand the logs and know when to trigger an incident, they won't understand OT. What's a production line? What is a process? What are conduits and zones and other terminology, and how to talk to engineers and maintenance engineers on site to make sense of an incident if they don't have some OT background and experience as well. So that's really, really important. You need to have that kind of expertise somewhere, whether it's unified or whether it's separate, doesn't matter, but you still need to have those people in your incident response and your security operations center. Great question.
Kelly, yeah. Kelly, some other questions are there?
Yeah, there's another question from the audience itself. How can organization implement an OT security program effectively?
Okay, well, that's a very broad question. How can you implement or effectively implement an OT cybersecurity program? Well, number one is absolute commitment to the process. You have to understand the objective of what you're trying to do, that you're trying to protect lives. In the OT environment, in the cyber physical world, environmental health and safety is number one topic, right? That trumps everything. You don't want your safety control systems to be disabled by a threat actor. You don't want your robotic systems and heavy machinery to be operating remotely controlled by a threat actor whose only intention is to do malicious harm to people. So you need to understand the objective of what it is that you're trying to do. You're trying to protect and save lives, number one. Number two, of course, is the availability, so that in order for the OT operations to achieve their goals and to be able to do what it is that they're trying to do, right? To produce what it is, the products and services that they're trying to produce, or the services that they're trying to produce, whether, especially essential services when you're talking about clean air, clean water, clean food. So all those things are of critical importance to all of us as individuals, and to our country as well, to India, to our nation, to our well-being. So it is a higher calling in a lot of ways, and I know that it sounds very grandiose, but this is really the truth and honest the honest opinion of what it is that we're protecting. So to implement an effective OT program, you need to have that diligence, that commitment to what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, right? And then from there, you have, of course, to have all the other elements. You have to have the resources, you have to have the controls, the technology, the framework, the not just regulatory compliance, but also going beyond that, thinking about standards like 62443, for example, which really help in operational technology and operational ICS environments, or it could be NIST. But whatever framework and standard that you're deciding to follow, it's really that commitment to excellence that should drive you on a daily basis. And then the absolute determination not to fail, the absolute determination that no matter what the barriers are, no matter what the roadblocks are, you must succeed. And then having the patience and the commitment to get there, because it is truly a marathon. It takes a long time, and in OT, it can take decades, because the refresh of technology in the OT world is measured in years, not months. Measured in decades. It is not an annual refresh like IT. It's really a long-term conversation. Might even be generational, where you might even have to think about things that may be realized in beyond even your career. But you have to commit to that. You have to, because no matter what, you can't fail.
Okay, we have another interesting question. In the face of increasing cyber threat targeting at industrial environments, how could asset owner prioritize risk-based segmentation of OT network, especially when legacy systems limit visibility and control? And how does Schneider Electric support this journey without disrupting operations?
Okay. You want to have first crack on that? It sounds like a microsegmentation, but I think also, maybe a little bit of time on the reason behind it, or the motivation behind that. But Somnath, maybe you'll have first crack at it this time.
Hey, thank you, Andre, and wonderful question, Avilasha. So, yeah, I mean, the priority should definitely come up with the risk associated with that process or with that business operation. So I would say that you start with understanding the criticality of the business operation, and based on that criticality, definitely then you should go for those micro segmentations or isolations. And particularly, I know that in India we have this problem of a lot of legacy systems available. But when we are dealing with legacy systems and the transition to the latest state of the art automation is a little bit difficult. The evolution is a little bit difficult. Still these legacy systems needs to be protected, and I think we should include right countermeasures, some additional protections, and definitely try to isolate them from the environment, because whatever we do, these legacy systems are not getting patched. They're not getting the whatever we are doing is over and above those legacy systems. So the moment they're legacy, I think it's best to isolate them from any kind of network. And uh, Andre, I think you are a master on this one, on Schneider Electric supporting this business. So I would leave it to you for the last part of the question.
No, I think you're doing fantastic. Absolutely agree as well. What's the first you have to look at the critical, as you said, what's the purpose of the process and the machinery and the OT equipment, the ICS equipment. It does make a difference in terms of how you segment your and create your different zones. I think that 62443 is a great primer and it's very, very helpful in terms of how you create your zones and conduits. And how you organize yourself, but can be challenging. Definitely can be challenging. There's a lot of different considerations as well when it comes to microsegmentation. I will say that personally for me the air gap, there's multiple examples of how the air gap no longer works anymore. So when we talk about segmentation, we're not just talking about isolation. Definitely there is a use case for isolation, but it cannot be your only control. And of course, we need to have layered defenses as much as possible whenever possible. So creating an air gap it should not be your only defense. Otherwise, you may quickly discover that it is not insurmountable. But once you get your microsegmentation in place, I think that of course we have to have conversations about visibility as well as part of those security controls that need to be put in place. Monitoring, threat detection, these topics still need to exist. You still need to have that visibility. Another thing that I find very interesting that's often overlooked is that in the OT world in particular, I like that some of the security controls can also double hat as engineering and maintenance tools as well. So for example, if you have a IDS deployed in your OT environment that's monitoring your traffic, you've tapped a span port on your core switch, or you've tapped several span ports around wherever the appropriate parts are in your security architecture, you also gain visibility in terms of all the traffic that's going through your network. So assuming that if you've got zones of trust, you may not have encryption everywhere, or you've got the decryption keys anyway, so you can decrypt traffic if you need to. You can see the actual signals that are being sent from engineer workstations and control centers to the control panels to the actuators, the PLCs. If you're thinking about the Purdue model, the things at layer 1, layer 2, you get a lot more visibility. It also helps with engineering. I find that fascinating that the same logs that can give you clues about security issues and incidents and anomalous behavior can also help you with engineering topics and maintenance as well. So something to keep in mind when you're, potentially pitching some of these upgrades and controls to the plant leaders, to the business leaders, at least to the decision makers and stakeholders. in terms of where you're going to spend your security budget and operational budget. That's an interesting angle to take as well. It's not just about security for the sake of security, but there's also other advantages to having all this visibility. So yeah, that's related to microsegmentation as well. But yeah, I think Somnath also captured the core essence of the why and the how.
Yeah, and a quick one on that one, Andre, is I think you need to be very mindful when you are doing macro segmentations. What about your conduits? Sometimes it happens that the micro segment might be SL2 or whatever it is, SL1, but your conduit is the one that is actually leaking security. So we need to be very, very particular about the conduits that are connecting to such micro segments where there are legacy systems. Just try to be extra protective about the conduit too. And by that, I mean you can put additional countermeasures in the conduit for better protection of your legacy systems. Yeah.
Yep. There's room in there for data diodes as well. I think that's where we can also play with some of that technology to help us a little bit.
Okay, we shall take one last question on the chat. Why gap exists between cybersecurity and other teams? In short, is actually how to bridge the gap. Like different priorities in terms of cybersecurity, implementing teams, focus on data protections, access control, network segmentations, and minimize vulnerability, as well as automation, focus on operations efficiency, uptime, process control, and real-time data.
Andre,
yeah, go ahead. You first.
Yeah, so I think in this one, a mix of having your operation technology guys into your cybersecurity team is, I think, the best solution to this one, because you know that whenever the cybersecurity team or the implementation team starts working on some of these business processes, and since nowadays it's right from the genesis itself, if the operation team, or let's say the team who are actually the business owners and the business process subject matter experts, can fill in the functionalities and the essentialities of those operations, that's the best teach to this solution. Because then what happens, it is no more an IT defense or an OT defense vis-a-vis an operations or an efficiency or optimized problem kind of a scenario. It's like both the things get married together, and right from the genesis itself, the security that is getting evolved, the architecture that is being planned is well taken care of. I think although the priorities might differ, but if it is a cross business team, it will really help in minimizing this difference.
Yeah, and I think the difference between an IT cybersecurity mindset and OT cybersecurity mindset can result in some of these gaps as well. But you can prevent a lot of these gaps from forming in the first place by cross-training your teams and making sure that engineering understands more about the security of their environment, which must also include cybersecurity considerations, right? So from the engineering side, you need to present it as an environmental health and safety topic. Cybersecurity is part of that conversation. And then in my experience, the traditional engineering side understand. They get it. When you present it and have a discussion, a conversation that's oriented around safety, much easier for them to understand and support and come around to what they need to do in order to protect their environment from external threats. The IT side also needs a little bit of a basic understanding of the OT environment. Like I said, it's useful for them to know a bit about OT, but I find, and again, I will admit that I have a personal bias in this conversation because Schneider Electric is an OT, IoT, industrial IoT company. So we have that viewpoint that's the lens that we view cybersecurity through. So all of our experiences are going to be around from through that lens. But it's also shown us some plans and things that have worked well for us in the past. For example, we've long established that cybersecurity is a unified conversation topic. There's no engineering topic and engineering health and safety topic and OT cybersecurity topic, and then separate there's this IT cybersecurity topic. We've always had cybersecurity as a single conversation. It's been the same organization for both for a very, very long time. Of course, we respect the differences in terms of how we implement. We need to take a slightly different approach strategically in terms of how we implement cybersecurity in the OT environment versus the IT environment. Right? How you protect data in HR is different from how you protect data and that's an industrial that's related to a PLC, a safety control system, right? So you of course have to recognize those differences. But we've long since had this as a unified organization, and then we added in product security as part of that not too long ago. So now we have really 3 types of cybersecurity that are under the same umbrella, and we're all the same team, so we talk to each other very effectively. But for you, if you're just starting off your journey, I would strongly advocate for, it's easier, in my experience, to train engineering on cybersecurity as that health and safety topic, as I mentioned, than it is to try and train IT people in cybersecurity. Not impossible, and you still have to do a little bit of both, but I would focus more resource on getting engineers up on cyber, and then understanding, 6403, understanding ISO, understanding all the different, and NIST as well, so that they understand. Because when you have, for example, an incident, it's not just going to be a purely OT incident, because think about the systems that we work with today. Engineering workstation is an IT piece of equipment that's used in the OT environment, right? So you're going to have stakeholders involved in all these conversations from both sides of the house. So, it's often better to have everyone talking to each other and having relationships early on, so that you don't have to strain and figure out how to move forward. But yeah, anyway, I hope that kind of gives you a few clues in terms of where to start, or if you're intermediate on your journey, how to improve and continue those conversations.
And a quick one on that, Andre. I think both the associate authorities and the ministry are also pushing for this minimizing of this difference. And because of that, I think nowadays there is a requirement of creating an alternate CISO from an OT environment for each organization. So maybe authorities and ministries are also pushing towards that, and that can be one of the key aspects of bridging this gap in this, down the line.
Yeah, that's fine. I think, again, they're stressing the difference between the 2 environments and having that different mindset. But like I said before, even like a SOC, IT and OT need to be best friends. Those 2 CISOs on the IT side and side, I mean, they need to be blood brothers. They need to be super, super, super communicating to each other. Otherwise, you lose visibility. If you operate in silos, like I said, you are going to fail, because isolation equals death, simply because the attackers are not isolated. So we can't be.
Okay, thank you, Andre and Somna. I hope you guys find this session interesting. So in case you need to know more, please feel free to reach out to us and connect with us to know more about our posture and sign up for the vulnerability management. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.